Okay, let's tackle one of those topics that usually makes people shuffle in their seats a little bit: religion. Now, no matter where you're from, if you're from the UK, US, or any other country, religion tends to be somewhat of a sensitive topic. However, you come from where I came from in America, religion is something that you naturally compare, at least how people handle it. Don't worry, I'm not going to preach or anything like that. I don't even go to church. But as an American living in the UK, I've noticed some really stark cultural differences in how religion shows up here in the UK versus in the United States. And honestly, some of them are hilarious, some of them are a little bit awkward, but all of them really took me by surprise and made me second guess a lot of what happens in the United States. Stick around, because by the end, you're going to see why religion in the US feels like it's cranked up to full volume, while in the UK, it's more like background noise and you only notice it if you're really paying attention. So back in the States, even if you've never stepped foot in any kind of place of worship, you can't avoid it. Religion is everywhere. There's billboards on the highway, there's bumper stickers on cars, giant churches, synagogues, mosques, and everything else in between, with parking lots that are as big as shopping malls. Politicians ending every single speech with "God bless America." Religion is pretty much baked into daily life, whether you like it or not. Here in the UK, it's completely different. Churches are everywhere, but they look more like historical landmarks than busy community centers, and imposing and almost making you feel as if you are wrong or bad for not participating in one of these places of worship. Half the time I walk by one and I can't tell if it's a museum or if it's even functional. Most are still active on some level, but you would barely know it. It's so subtle that it almost fades into the scenery. This really took me by surprise, because coming from a country that does not have a set religion that is nationalized, I assumed that a country that did have a religion that was central to the country, that was nationalized, would be more people would be religious overall, and it would be more of a cornerstone of the culture. And I guess it was at one point, but it just certainly isn't any longer. This is where I had my first real culture clash. Back home, even if you're not religious, you are casually asked, "So what church do you go to? What faith do you follow?" It's kind of the equivalent small talk of the weather, I suppose, here. I don't know why it's an icebreaker, but it just seems to be. It's totally normal for someone to talk to you about their religion or to ask you about your own or your own faith. So when I first moved here, I believe it came up in conversation and I was just really casual about it. Like, "Oh, so what do you believe?" Because that's what I'm used to. You would not believe the look that I got. It was like I was asking for someone's PIN number for their bank card. And that's when I realized for the first time that in the UK, religion is just not a an acceptable topic of conversation typically. It's almost on the same level as asking how much you make a year and what you do for a living. It just doesn't matter in the UK culture like it matters in the US culture. It's very personal, it's very private, and almost completely off limits unless you have a very strong connection bond with someone, you know them really, really well. So in the United States, we take everything to an extreme, obviously. Anyone who's even had a small snippet of US culture will acknowledge that. And so even if you've never stepped into any place of worship, religion still kind of runs the calendar. You have Easter aisles that look like candy factories exploded. Christmas starts pretty much the day after Halloween. Halloween itself is huge in America, which is kind of an anti-religious holiday in its origins, but still something that's highly celebrated in the United States. It's loud, it's everywhere. You have mixed in crosses, chocolate crosses with the chocolate bunnies, nativity scenes and pictures of baby Jesus mixed up in the decorations that include Santa Claus and Happy Holidays. It's loud, it's everywhere, and you cannot escape it in the United States. But here in the United Kingdom, it's kind of different. Christmas is still huge. Christmas is so huge that because they don't really celebrate Halloween and Thanksgiving, it kind of starts in September. The minute that it's not hot anymore, Christmas stuff is out. But it's more focused on community, family time, food that you maybe haven't had all year yet, decorating the inside of your house rather than the outside of your house, and really focusing on tradition first. Religion is there in the back. When you compare the United States to the UK and you're talking about religion, politics has to come into the conversation. Politics being a hot button issue in both arenas, it's still something that is intertwined in the United States with religion. It's constantly tangled up together. Here in the UK, it's much more separate. You'll hear passionate arguments about football, housing prices, Brexit, but not nearly as passionate about religion, which is the exact opposite in the US. It seems that I would say most, if not all, of the discussions in the political arena have some kind of core or foundation in a religious belief or an anti-religious belief. So you will hear very, very passionate arguments in the States as well, but we'll just cut that part out. It's really the contrary is really that the United States has the religion as a focal point in almost every aspect of the US, in almost every aspect of conversation, whereas the UK, it's just not part of the day-to-day debate, particularly in politics. So from my non-church going atheist perspective, it feels like this. America puts religion front and center. Even though it's supposed to be secular, it's supposed to be a melting pot. Some religions definitely want the final say, and they want to be the headliner at the music festival all the time. And other religions are just trying to practice in common faith, but also trying to stand their grounds and make sure that they're seen and heard in the US arena. While the UK tends to treat religion more like an indie band that's playing quietly in the background at a county fair. Both exist, both really matter, both are integral in shaping the culture of each area. However, they just do it in very different ways. Honestly, this is, for me, just another representation of how the US and UK cultures are actually more different than we realize. On the surface, it looks really similar. We have a lot of same values. We approach life in a lot of same manners. But when you actually start living it day to day from one to the other, you start to see these little gaps that feel massive once it starts to cement and click into your head. So now I want to know what vibe you prefer. I mean, are you more about religion everywhere, where you can learn a lot more, you get exposed to a lot more different religions, or are you more about the UK version of religion, where you just don't really talk about it and you do what you do and you just move on? I'm still kind of figuring this out, just how to navigate and which one I think I prefer, because I like the aspect of the United States, whereas because all the religions were loud and in your face. I learned about so many of them. I was curious about so many of them, and invoked so much intrigue to me that I was, educated on a lot of different religions and was able to learn a lot more than I feel like I would have if I wasn't. And here in the UK, secularism is so much more common that it's almost like we don't really understand or take the time to have the conversation to understand or ask questions of other people's religions and why it's so important to them. And given that religion, organized religion in itself, no matter what religion you believe, is as old as time and is normally the basis of a lot of decisions in the world, I feel like it's a conversation that's probably worth having. Anyway, that's my take. I am curious what you guys know. Let me know in the comments below. I hope this answered all your questions about my perspective of the comparison of religion in the UK versus the US. And I'll stay safe out there, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.